Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, October 24th, 2023. I would like to start out by reminding everyone that this meeting will be live streamed. As per policy number 7, regular and special meetings of the board may be streamed live, archived, and accessed online. The board reserves at its sole discretion via motion at any meeting the right to not stream live or archive a meeting or a portion of a meeting. Further, the board reserves the right to edit any recorded portion of a meeting. I would like to call to order the regular meeting of the Langley Board of Education at 7:00 p.m. I would like to first acknowledge that the Langley School District is located on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Matsqui, Kwantlen, Katzie, and Semiahmoo First Nations. We gather here tonight in an understanding of the importance of Yayistil, Skekayais working together, and Natsamat, Letsamat uniting ourselves with one mind, one heart, to ensure that we support and inspire all learners to reach their full potential. I'd like to start out the evening by welcoming everyone here. First of all, I'd like to welcome in our partner groups, Taylor Hollabaugh, CUPE 1260 President, Kim Anderson. Is Taylor here? Actually, I just noticed you checked her. It's okay. Oh, you checked the wrong Taylor. Sorry, Taylor Photo from Langley Teachers Association President. Nancy Peterson, LTA Vice President. Michelle Smith, CUPE 1260 Executive Member at Large. Alba Morrison, CUPE 1851 VP. Superintendent Mal Gill, Secretary Treasurer Brian Isley, Deputy Superintendent Woody Bradford, Assistant Superintendent Lisa Langeberry, Assistant Superintendent Marcello Moino, Assistant Secretary Treasurer Shind Chand, Communications Manager Joanne Abshire, Executive Assistant Debbie Jones, Technical Support Specialist Paul Baboa, Technical Support Specialist 3 Vincent Montefrio. From the Board of Education, Holly Dickinson, Trustee, Charlie Fox, Trustee, Joel Neufeld is away this evening, Sarah Bry, Trustee, Tony Ward, Trustee, and Marnie Wellston, Trustee. And I hope I have mentioned everybody that is here. I will hand it over to you, Vice Chair Dickinson, to do a report from in camera, please.
Right, so I'm just reporting out that the items from the in-camera this evening included personnel. The items discussed at the in-camera meeting on September 19th, 2023 pertain to personnel and property, and the items discussed at the special in-camera meeting on September 26th, 2023 pertain to personnel.
Thank you. Trustees, you have in front of you the consent agenda. Do I have a mover for the motion that the Board of Education adopts the consent agenda items as provided? Trustee Fox, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Is there any discussion on the motion? No, seeing no discussion, can I have a show of hands, please? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consideration of the agenda. Do I have a mover, please, that the agenda be approved as presented? Moved by Trustee Wilson, seconded by Trustee Dickinson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, can I have a show of hands, please, for those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. We're on to superintendent's reports now. 7.1 boundary change process. I'm going to pass this over to you, Superintendent Gill.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. This evening we have Assistant Superintendent Langeberry, who's going to be presenting on potential boundary changes in the Langley secondary region. We have had a significant amount of growth across the district, and you'll hear that later in the enrollment report from the Secretary Treasurer. One particular area, the Langley secondary family of schools, has grown immensely. But the growth has not been balanced, and Assistant Superintendent Lanchbury will talk a little bit about potential solutions, at least the process for those solutions going forward.
Thank you, Superintendent Gill. Yes, as mentioned, we are looking at a boundary change process for the Langley Secondary Region. We are proposing boundary changes for the elementary schools and the LSS family of schools. Just looking at the enrollment growth that has occurred over the past 3 years. Looking on your left there, Nickel-Meckle 306 in 2020, and on the right, Nickel-Meckle 454 in 2023. So over the past 3 years, all of the elementary schools together have grown a collective approximate 100 students per year. And we are working to find some solutions to find them all spots in their catchment schools. Most of this increase has occurred at Nickel-Meckle, but you can see that there is some growth in the other schools. I'll speak to that in a little bit, but some of that is due to overflow having to go to the other schools. And you can see at the bottom there, HD Stafford Middle and Langley Secondary both have experienced the growth as well. This has been just in particular the Nickel-Meckle division increase. In 2020, there were 16 divisions. 2023, we started the year this year with 21 divisions. 2024, possible increase, and we will know more in the coming months. The challenges that are occurring because of this increase, finding adequate space, of course, for the increasing divisions, meeting the collective agreement language that exists in every district, having small group instruction spaces. We know that more students equals more teachers, and just to be able to meet the space needs of all that instruction, both in the division classrooms and in the small instruction spaces is a challenge. Providing space for third-party childcare rentals as well. One of the challenges that we've seen this fall is really welcoming families and getting them settled in right off the bat. So what is happening this fall is as they arrive, we are finding space in other schools in the areas because they don't all fit into the Nickel-Meckle. This is what has been occurring in the LSS region just this fall. You can see that Douglas Park, up until September 30th, welcomed 11 Nickel-Meckle catchment students into their school, Blacklock 12, Simons 5, etc., for a total of 35 students who didn't fit into the Nickel-Meckle school at the end of September. And you can see that that number, if you look back over the previous years, is actually a total of 118. There might be different reasons why their students not living in their catchment school is the same school that they're attending. Some of them might be they had cross-boundary requests, and some of those reasons might include they lived in a different catchment and then moved to the Nickel-Meckle catchment. But that number is important for us to look at as we look to make some decisions about boundaries. So this is the process and timeline that we're looking at. In October, we started by meeting with the LSS Family of Schools administrators to share the catchment change rationale and to talk about the proposal of the potential change, which included sharing this plan with them. October, November, I will be attending the elementary PAC meetings for the elementary feeder schools and sharing the rationale and proposal for the potential change. And then we have opened up, we will be expecting and encouraging feedback to feedback@sd35.bc.ca so that we can hear the families' questions, concerns, and then continue the plans based on that. And that will happen following meeting with district staff in November and to discuss the feedback, the impact, potential changes, and then we'll come back to the board and report back our findings. We take careful considerations when we're making decisions around catchment changes. The first being the current Langley students who live in the catchments who will be affected by the change. Some of those might be in preschool coming up into kindergarten or attending for our next year. The current Langley students who attend the schools themselves already, what are their plans for next year, and how will they be impacted by these changes? Preschool age children, we have rich early learning programs, both third-party childcare and school district fund programs in our schools, and we really value these programs, and we want to consider the preschool age children in the plans moving forward. local knowledge of where housing is being built. As you can see, we're doing this because the developments are coming in. We want to ensure that we're being well aware of the local housing, the major roads, minor roads, safe walk routes, transportation. Some families do drive to school and some just get to school by walking. So we're just keeping that into consideration. The choice program being there's a Montessori choice program at Uplands, which is in the family of schools. And then local opinions, again, part of why we have that feedback loop, and then other relevant issues. So we do know that there is increasing enrollment in the LSS region, mainly in the Nickel-Meckle catchment. And we do know that we are responding to this increasing enrollment by proposing these changes. The ministry does expect to see schools in the region full to capacity before the expansions are built. And that's part of the rationale why we're doing this, so that we can ensure that we have a clear understanding for the ministry of where these students are attending school. And then again, many considerations are made when creating boundaries. We care very much for our staff, families, and students who are attending these schools, and we want to make, if we move forward with the transition, a smooth transition for them. And the ongoing feedback that we're receiving through feedback at sc35.bc.ca will help us in doing that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? Okay, thank you so much. Seeing no questions, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Secretary Treasurer's reports. 8.1, the annual, oh, sorry. Oh, my goodness, no, I didn't. Oh, my goodness, dropping the ball here. Okay, first of all, can I have a motion that that we accept that the Board of Education receives the report, on the boundary change process for information as received. Motion by Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion. All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you, Superintendent. Keeping me on track. My goodness. Okay, now we're moving on to Secretary Treasurer's reports. 8.1, the annual 5-year capital plan bylaw 2023-2024.
Thank you, Chair. The board will recall at the April 25th regular board meeting that the board approved the annual capital bylaw, which is done in response to the ministry response letter to the capital plan submissions that the district submits every June. They have updated their response letter to the district, so it does require a redoing of the bylaw, as we need that to access the funds to proceed with those projects. The letter changed with 2 items. The one, trustees will recall that the Feeding Futures program was added this fall, and with that came a chance for districts to resubmit minor capital requests for this school year to facilitate those programming. And we put in a request for some renovations being done at HD Stafford to update their food program to be able to serve that school and potentially the surrounding elementary schools. That has been approved by the ministry and is now part of our response letter. In addition to that, we have been informed that we've been approved for a 6-classroom prefabricated modular addition to Richard Bullpitt Elementary, which we are working very diligently to try have open for this fall. So that is a new program that the ministry has started doing modular builds, and we are one of the pilot cases for the province. So the motions are in there for the bylaw, but if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Do trustees have any questions? Trustee Fox.
Thank you, Chair Ashdown. With the six-room modular build, are they expecting that to be a standalone or integrated into the existing structure of Richard Bullpitt in terms of how it's constructed in the site plan?
They didn't have any expectations on that one way or another. We've put it out for tender actually to do it as a project management, build, install all as one. It's the only way we can actually hope to hit a September timeline. So the proposals will be coming from the various manufacturers. The stipulation is it has to be accessible and it has to have cooling and heating moderating. So they will have to tie into the building in some way. The building was designed for an addition being built onto it. So there's various options of being completely attached or having breezeways that attach to it. Or if they went to a standalone, it would require an elevator, which would then increase the cost. So I think we'll see something that is attached, but we haven't seen the proposals. The request for proposal doesn't end until the end of the month.
Can I ask one follow-up? So, thank you for that. If I could, Richard Bolt that was built, when it was built, had pads for portables on it, integrated into the site plan. Are they looking at using that area for the construction of the new piece, or will those remain as flex for future growth?
So there are 6 portables on site right now. Minimum of 2 will absolutely need to be moved, most likely 4, because that's the same area that it's going. So we'll have to see what happens there. The hope is that we'll be able to at least keep 2 as well.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Dickinson.
I just had a quick question about the build and washroom accessibility, given that there's so many portables that are on site. Just wondering that in addition to those portables that the building wouldn't have been built to deal with, now we've got another 6 classrooms coming on.
So the modular will include washrooms and potential breakout spaces as well. It's been put into the RFP.
Fantastic, thank you.
Trustee Wilson.
Yeah.
Going through like a reboot thing, it looks like. Okay,
Whatever, Jules.
so I had the same question about whether it was going to be connected. I was really hoping it was, because I would prefer that over standalone, just for the sense of community and everybody being together. Now I've sort of lost my question because it took so long to get the microphone. Yeah, so the washrooms and accessibility, they're going to be part of it, and breakaway spaces. So do we have a square footage that it has to meet or can't exceed?
The classrooms, they've asked us to have 75 to 80 square meters, which is a standard size classroom. And they've given us a budget amount that has to fit in. There's not a lot of specifications on this. It's a bit of creating the wheel as we go.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Ward.
Mine worked first time. With respect to modular, I mean, it's essentially a prefab, but the expectation is that that's a permanent installation, foundation, et cetera, et cetera. It's just a method of construction so that we can add without adding portables per se. Am I summarizing adequately?
The ministry requires a 30-year life. We've put in for 50 in the RFP, see if we can get that. It does require a foundation. They are more permanent, but does allow us to go 2 stories, which portables we can't do.
Any other questions from trustees? No. Okay, so we have 4 motions with regards to this 5-year capital plan bylaw. So I will start with the first. Do I have a mover, please, that the school district number 35 Langley Capital Plan 2023-2024 capital bylaw number 2023-24 CPSD 35-02 be given first reading. Moved by Trustee Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Ward. Do I have any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, show of hands, please, for all those in favor. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Next motion, if I could have a mover, please, that the school district number 35 Langley Capital Plan 2023-2024, Capital Bylaw number 2023-24, CPSD 3502 be given second reading. Trustee Fox, do I have a seconder? Trustee Rye? Is there any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, could I have a show of hands, please? All those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Next motion, could I please have a mover that the Board of Education of School District number 35 Langley approves having all three readings of the Capital Plan 2023-2024, Capital Bylaw number 2023-24, CPSD 3502 at tonight's meeting. Trustee Ward, seconded by Trustee Wilson. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, can I have a show of hands? All those in favor, please? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Last motion with regards to this item, do I have a mover, please, that the School District number 35 Langley, Capital Plan 2023-24, Capital Bylaw number 2023-24, CPSD 35-02 be given third reading, passed and adopted on this 24th day of October 2023. Vice Chair Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Fox. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, can I have a show of hands? All those in favor, please? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to 8.2, funding and enrollment update. Would that be Secretary Treasurer?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to provide an update on the enrollment as well as the funding implications for the September count that was done on September 30th. The amounts are still preliminary as we still have to do the duplication removal process with the ministry with other districts. Typically, there were potential to lose a couple of students, not usually too substantial of changes that happen after this point in time, but wanted to give trustees kind of a summary of where we're at. The report has a lot of detail in it, so I was just going to go through some of the high level, but obviously we'll be willing to answer any questions. On the funding, going to be projected to be higher, just under $6.2 million from what was budgeted. We had, as the superintendent mentioned, a lot of growth in the district. We had budgeted 812 students, but we exceeded that by 454 students, FTE, pardon, which results in a bulk of the funding that I mentioned previously, just a little bit over 3.9 million in additional funding due to the enrollment increases that we've seen in our students. On the alternate category, we're up 5 FTE for just over $43,000. The only category that actually declined first projection was our continuing ed online homestay and course challenges categories. That dropped 8.4375 FTE for just a little more than $82,000. On our designated students, funding level 1 and 2 and 3, all those categories were higher than projection. Level 1 increased by 1, level 2 by 58, and level 3 by 14 for a net funding increase of just under $1.6 million. Our ELL, which has grown substantially over the last number of years as we see the demographics of our community changing with migration into the country and into Langley, has grown above projection by 181 students for an increase in funding of just over $314,000. And our Indigenous education had 55 more students, so that's grown for the first time in a few years for just over $94,000, and our summer session increased by $314,000. When you go and look at our number of students, our school-age students, we've grown 1,196 students versus last September, and FTE-wise, that's 1,259.75. So that's the third year now that we've grown approximately 1,000 students in this district. That's one of the highest behind Surrey. It is the highest behind Surrey in the province. We also saw our graduated adults increase and slight change in headcount in our non-graduated adults. So that's the high level that I was going to present tonight. But if there are questions on the details in the report, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you. Are there any questions from trustees? No questions? Okay. Seeing no questions from trustees, and moving along here, which is nice. That can I please have a mover that the Board of Education receives the funding and enrollment update for information as presented. Moved by Vice Chair Dickinson, seconded by Trustee Rye. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, can I have a show of hands? All those in favor, please. Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Great. We are moving along. This is a nice and quick meeting. So now we're moving along to trustee comments. And again, you don't have to say anything if you don't want, but I will start on maybe on my right with Trustee Wilson, if there's anything, and we'll move along this way if you have anything you'd like to say.
Great. I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. It's great to see you. I know it's not a very nice night out there, and I want to thank all of our staff that are working so hard in the school district and parents. I know we're in a bit of a crisis as far as school spaces and teachers and everything sort of happening at once, and we really appreciate everything that everybody's doing with your patients. And it's not just our district, it's all districts. So thank you for that, and thank you everybody for being here.
Vice Chair Dickinson.
So to mimic what Trustee Wilson was saying, I know it's been a really hard setup, but I am just overwhelmed with gratitude to live in a place and in Langley where we have opened our arms to so many refugees that are definitely struggling right now, and to taking students from around the world in an already overcrowded system, but making room in our schools and in our hearts to allow them to be here, and all the extra kids and finding places for them. So just thank you for all of that. It's been a very trying few months, I know, for all of you. So thank you for your work and grateful to be here.
Thank you. We'll go over to you, Trustee Fox. Did you have anything you'd like to say?
No, not in particular, other than to endorse my two colleagues' comments and just say that I was part of a BCSTA Zoom Lower Mainland Metro Vancouver meeting today with my fellow trustees, and the issues that we're experiencing with growth, with ELL learners, with immigration and so on, are pretty much standard across the whole Metro Vancouver area. And every district has much the same, many of the same challenges as we do. So thank you to our senior staff for doing what they're doing and addressing them and making sure our new students get the education they deserve in their new country. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Ward.
I'd just like to thank everybody for showing up tonight. Thank you, staff. Again, great meeting, a short meeting. It's very nice. Just a positive note from being a trustee, but being a father as well, and with a very exciting district. Just recently had the cross country championships in Langley, obviously moving on to other sports, but very excited, always put on very well by all the staff involved. My daughter did very well. I'm very proud of her, but I'm proud of everybody. And it's just a really great event. And along with all of these other things that our students are able to participate in, Langley is top notch. So thank you.
I don't have much to say. Thank you so much for coming out today. Always being involved in our meetings, and thank you to you guys always working hard and supporting us, and have a good night.
Thank you. So I'll just also thank everyone for all of your hard work. I know the last couple of months is always a bit challenging with fitting everyone in our schools, especially now with our growth. And I'm just I'm so proud to be part of this district with incredible people in this district. Seriously, it's amazes me every time I come to these meetings and all of the awesome work that you guys are doing. So thank you so much. I am going to just move along then to question period. Question period is provided at board meetings. The purpose is to ensure those present in the audience have an opportunity to obtain clarification regarding or concerning business conducted during the meeting. Priority will be given to responding to one question per person before considering further questions from any individual. The following will help the public develop questions for question period at a board meeting that is keeping with the goal of a respectful and focused meeting. Questions need to be directed to the chair and not to staff. Need to be related directly to the topic on the agenda. Need to be succinct, focused, and not be a statement. May not be asked that are related to personnel or directed at an individual trustee. May not be asked that are related to contract negotiations. And the questioner shall provide their name so that it can be reflected in the minutes. All of the above are directions provided for in board policy number 7, board operations. The chair may answer, may defer to staff, or indicate a question may not be in keeping with the above guidelines. The board appreciates the public's interest and wants to ensure a professional meeting is conducted with question period focused on providing guests with the clarification they seek. Trustees also welcome questions from members of the public apart from question period. Their contact information is available on the school district website. Do you have any questions for question period? Evan?
First one was, sorry, Evan. Hi, directing to the chair. On the modular acquisition, the prefabs for Bull Pit, obviously new program, sort of figuring out as you go, as Brian said. I'm just curious how many other sort of local to us districts are sort of taking advantage of similar funding. And I'm just curious, we're doing an RFP, it sounds like, for this particular project. Is there anything in the works for a more broad procurement strategy if prefab is sort of becoming an option, at least in the Lower Mainland?
I am going to pass this over to Secretary Isley. However, I will say that yes, I do know for a fact that they are looking at this across the province. This is something that is important to them, and we have spoken with the minister, and so. But you may have some more kind of detailed information.
I know of at least 8 districts that have received similar funding. That may not be all of them. Most of them are in the Lower Mainland. Some of us have spoken on how we're going about doing this. Obviously, the ministry has looked at whether they could do a provincial thing. It wasn't something that they could pull off with the space wanting to have it done for September if possible.
Yeah.
So this one was left to districts to kind of go through their own procurement process. And some districts are doing it differently. I know Souk is doing it very similar to us, where they're doing an RFP out for the whole project with hopes to having the space done for September. Others are doing it, having it done past September.
Yeah, sort of the efficiency, the design build all under one vendor. Follow up to that is, I guess if we're ideally sort of getting this done for the September period, are there any restrictions that have been mandated on the funding that potentially inhibit that? Like, does it have to be BC built, Canadian built? Are there any sort of vendor restrictions in place there?
I'm definitely passing this over to you.
So,
yeah, this is a program that I've never seen. The restrictions are very few. The guidelines are very few. This is about space as fast as possible.
Please create press classroom space.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, great. Is anybody else asking questions, or can I? No, you guys are just, okay, great. Second one was, it is technically not an active agenda item, but it's adjacent in that it's the capital plan. How are the electric buses going? So I'm welcome to retract that question, but I was just curious because I saw there's a.
But could you send us an email and then we can get you some more information on that?
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Evan.
I just saw the single fleet replacement in the capital plan and that.
Thank you.
Brought it up in my mind there. Great. And then, if I can read my own writing here about enrollment projections. Oh, yeah, I think we see this comment consistently because it's true. The demo is shifting significantly in Langley. Obviously, we like to see that. I might retract that comment. There's a hockey stick in those enrollment projections. I'm curious, we're kind of generally tied in with Verigar for the projections. Census data is not good. They're kind of the only local source of proprietary enrollment projections. Are we finding essentially the information that's provided in those projections are keeping up with the rapid pace of the demo change, that they still have predictive value to the level that we're interested in?
I will pass it to you. I was just gonna say that staff do regularly meet with staff with the city and the township as well. So that is definitely part of, looking at the data for student enrollment, but I will pass it over to Secretary Treasurer Isley as well to talk more about Verigar.
Verigar and the work that staff have done, have they been in the ballpark? Have they hit it correctly? No. They've been higher than what we've thought the last number of years, but the growth in the province has been higher than anyone thought the last couple of years.
Yeah.
The projections that we always put in for our preliminary budget are not actually what we see in Verigar, and because
you're good at your job.
Well, because it's a lot harder to take money out in September if kids don't come than to top up when the kids do arrive. We do change our planning in between the budgets to accommodate those students. So we do work as we see the kids come, but the preliminary budget's done pretty early and we want to make sure it's a number that we're comfortable with.
Gotcha. And I saw the breakdown table for the grade. There's a bit of a lump there around, I think it's the 4 to 7, whatever that cohort is. Are there any sort of specificities or anomalies in either from the in-migration or otherwise that we're seeing in the demo, or is it expected to be fairly uniformly distributed?
It's usually pretty uniform. I think the one shock for us is our K numbers. They were lower than what we would have thought with the growth that we've seen, because usually our K numbers are a big indicator and a lead indicator for us, and they were actually a little lower than what we would have thought they would have been.
Yeah.
The other age groups, I think they're fairly representative.
Damn secret toddlers. Hang on. Okay, those were all my questions today, and you can all go home early. Isn't that great? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I see we lost Vice Chair Dickinson. Okay, that's okay. We can still okay. You have a question?
Yes. One came to my mind. My name is Rachel. With the enrollment numbers, they all seem to be going up on this year's. Do those include those who have enrolled with online or direct learning? Is that still a part of the school district numbers? Because I do believe they have online or directed learning, kind of homeschooling, still has to register with the district. Is that true? So those numbers are reflective of both those in school itself and online school?
So the 1,200 doesn't include homeschool. The homeschool are in the report with the number of homeschooled because they do have to register with the district. Online and distributed learning would also be in the report with the numbers that we've reported, yes.
Okay, so those numbers, those are used for budgetary purposes for funding from the government as well through the whole system?
Yeah, so online is also funded. They're funded at different rates, but they are funded by the ministry and are part of our operating grant that we received from them.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. Oh, you have another question?
My name is Kara. Know if it particularly on the agenda, but it was definitely mentioned in the comments and it might be discredited. Just the lack of concern about the teacher shortage. I feel that there needs to be a process in place and I would love to have it addressed at future board meetings because it doesn't seem like it's ending. So putting in a formal process as to how to deal with it in the future, whether that's in the school, from the principal, on our end. I love the Langley School District. I think you guys did an amazing job during COVID and helping us at home. But for the last 6 weeks, my child hasn't had a teacher and it's been really hard. So I think those supports that were offered to us during COVID could easily have provided to us as parents dealing with children without teachers.
So, sorry, so, you had a question?
I would like to see some topic agenda in the next board meeting around the teacher shortage and how to deal with that process in the future.
Yeah, with regards to staffing, I'll pass it over, but the board definitely is concerned. So just so you know,
I think my concern is just
yeah,
not seeing it on the agenda.
I will pass this over to Superintendent Gill.
Certainly appreciate what you're saying, and I think trying to fit it into an agenda in a future meeting certainly makes sense around reporting back. The other place we could do that is probably at a DPAC meeting, a future DPAC meeting.
Okay.
That's probably something that could happen sooner, so I'd certainly keep it in mind in providing that information for parents. And I appreciate the fact that you're saying that your child didn't have a teacher for that amount of time. It has weighed heavy on the minds of our staff, and we have been doing everything we can, working with our partners to try and get somebody in as quickly as possible. And so certainly appreciate your concerns, and we'll get that to parents as quickly as we can.
I appreciate that.
Thank you. All right, seeing no other speakers, do I have a motion, please, to adjourn at 7:41 p.m. Moved by Trustee Wilson, seconded by Vice Chair Dickinson. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.